Today's episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast is brought to you by the Adams Group Agency, developing final expense leaders.
Mental health matters. Mental health is real. Mental health is not just something you can make go away just because you say so. So let's stop thinking about it this way. And let's go and get about the business of dealing with this health challenge in a way that is kind, non-judgmental, proactive, and solutions oriented. Can we do that? It's May, the month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And I am your host, Helen Blocker Adams on Reset to Reinvent podcast. I'm so glad that you have joined us here today. Oh my goodness, we are going to dive into week 2 of Mental Health Awareness Month. Okay, I think we can all agree that many of us do not like to talk about mental health awareness. Can we agree on that? And I think we talked about that last week. And so when you think about, mental health and wellness, the negative stigma that appears to hover over this often neglected health concern is real. And it's a bit disconcerting, if you ask me. Okay, it really is. I read something on Facebook the other day and I thought was really very interesting. It caught my attention and it says, if we could look into each other's hearts and understand the unique challenges each of us faces, I think we would treat each other much more gently, with more love, patience, tolerance, and care. And this was written by a gentleman named Marvin J. Ashton. You know what? I think, that's when you think about the saying, put yourself in someone else's shoes or walk in somebody else's shoes. I think there was even a commercial on one of the Super Bowl several years ago about walking in someone else's shoes. You really would treat people, I believe, a little differently if we can walk in someone else's shoes. And when we think about the whole subject of mental health and mental wellness, it's almost like, okay, just see what it's like in somebody else's shoes. So let's think about that. Let's be a little bit more empathetic and a little bit more understanding and open-minded about this subject called mental health. And so last week, we talked about some of the ways to help someone suffering with mental health challenges. And I want to finish those first on the beginning of today's episode. And then I want to talk about some of the causes or triggers that cause mental health concerns. And I also want to spend a few minutes with you chatting about the incident that I was telling you about that took place 18 years ago here in Augusta, Georgia. The incident that sparked my interest in mental health in a huge way. Okay, but family. I do hope that you got a chance to listen to last week's episode. Yes, starting off the month of May. If not, please do. You don't want to miss it. All of these episodes for this month of May, they come together. They are connected so that they can bring more awareness to Mental Health Awareness Month. But let me just say, I put this disclaimer out last week. I'm going to put it out here again today. I am not a health professional. I am not a healthcare professional. I am not a mental health professional. I am not a clinical psychologist or psychologist or anything like that. I am just someone who I guess I consider myself a mental health advocate. I just have a interest, a fascination. I just care about, I've always been kind of like a supporter of the underdog. And when you think about, I think when you think about mental health, it's almost like that's an underdog type of disease or health concern because you can't see it. The mental is it's in your head. You can't look at someone and tell that they've got mental health challenges or it's not so obvious. So it's almost like they're an underdog stigma. And so uh, I want to just let you know that. So the information I'm going to share is information that I researched to bring more awareness, to make you aware of, to make you think about. And who knows, you might want to become a mental health advocate, or who knows, you might want to go into the profession. You just never know. But I do want to let you know that no, I am not a healthcare professional. So by any means, if there's anything going on in your life that's making you feel like you're at the tipping point, please go seek help. Okay, seek professional help. All right. So when we talk about mental health, let's talk about that just for a second again. Mental health refers to a person's emotional, psychological, and social well-being, encompassing how they think, how they feel, and how they behave. It's a vital aspect of overall health, okay? Influencing how individuals cope with stress, how they form relationships and make decisions and realize their potential. Mental health is a continuum. And the word continuum, it means a continuous sequence in which adjacent elements are not perceptibly different from each other. And we're gonna dig a little bit further in that term continuum. And so while mental disorders like depression and anxiety exist, a state of positive mental health is also possible. Yes, it's possible, where individuals thrive, are fulfilled, and can cope with life challenges. Okay, so when we talk about the word continuum, there are ongoing ways to improve one's mental health. And more likely, it's more than one thing that you can do. So it's a continuum. It's like it's not necessarily that you're having to take medication for the rest of your life. Amen. But to control or to help or enhance one's mental health, there is an ongoing process, if you will. And so there are some ways that you can improve mental health, and prioritizing sleep and exercise and a balanced diet. Those are several that I talked about in last week's episode. And of course, never discount the idea of seeking professional help. Okay, definitely don't do that. And so we're going to finish up with some of the ways that you can help your mental health. Here's number 4. So last week, number 1 was prioritizing sleep. Number 2 was engaging in regular exercise. Number 3 was maintaining a healthy diet. So we're going to start with number 4. Number 4, connect with others. Build strong relationships with family, friends, and community members. I look at my insurance family as they're business partners, but they're family to me. Okay. And so that's a group of people that I can connect with, where we share similar desires to be able to help people with insurance. And so that connection with them is real. Okay. Just like my connection with my family. Social connection provides support and reduces feeling of loneliness. That feeling of loneliness is something that I can't honestly say. I just can't pinpoint on a time where I felt lonely. And I probably have. I just can't think about it right this moment. But there are people who are having challenges And even if they're in a room full of people, they still feel lonely. Okay. And it's at that point that we need to find a way to get you connected with family and friends and business associates. Get involved with something that helps you belong. A lot of people join fraternities or sororities or get involved with a ministry at their church. There's just something about connecting with people that helps us be able to cope and just get through life and have fun. Okay. Number 5 is practice mindfulness. Pay attention to the present moment and pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings without judgment. Oh my goodness, too many of us, we're our own worst enemy. Oh my goodness, we beat ourselves up. We make one little mistake and we just beat ourselves up. And why? We're not perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect. And why strive for perfection when you can't get there? So don't beat yourself up. It's okay to make a mistake. And who knows, maybe that mistake might be the tipping point for you to get to another level because you made that mistake. But we're so judgmental. We're our own worst enemy. And stop that. Stop it. Stop it. So practice paying attention to the present moment. What's going on now? What's going on today? Oh my goodness. Here in Augusta, in the past week, there have been 3 tragic, fatal car accidents here in Augusta. Actually, last week it happened one day after the next. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Just horrifying. And so when we think about our mental health, our mental wellness, and how we feel and how we can make ourselves feel better, think about the present moment. Think about right now. You're listening to me or you're watching me on YouTube and you're listening, but pay attention to the right now, the present moments, because that's all we have. If you think about it, that's all we have is this present moment. And I'm a live in the moment type of person. I like to celebrate each day and look at each day as just a brand new opportunity, like opening up a box of Cracker Jacks, when you got that prize in the box of apple Cracker Jacks, and you're like, okay, let's see what the prize is today. So number 5, when we think about how we can improve our mental health, is practice mindfulness. Okay. And some other ways that you can practice mindfulness is meditation, deep breathing, reading the word, of course, that goes on top. Okay. No matter what your faith. And yoga. I'm told yoga can help. My sister-in-law there in Santa Monica, she practices yoga on a regular. Okay. And she's very centered. Now, I've never done yoga before. I never practiced it before, but who knows? I might try it and see. Okay. Number 6, the last one that I'll be talking about as it relates to how you can improve your mental health is manage stress effectively. Oh, actually, this isn't the last one. I've got one more. Manage stress effectively. Identify stressors in your life and develop coping mechanisms like exercise, relaxation techniques, or spending time in nature. Okay. Or find yourself a place at your home, Your home should be your oasis. I know my home is my oasis. I love being here in my home, and you should have a place. It would be good if you had a place in your home that you can just tuck away, go close the door, close the closet, and just find your place where you can relax and meditate. But managing stress effectively, identifying stressors. Now, next week, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about some of those stressors. And that will be a good portion of next week's episode of talking about stressors to mental health, some of the stressors that impact our mental health and coping mechanisms. Okay, so stay tuned for that. But we've got so much more in today's episode. But number 7 on ways to improve our mental health is seek professional help when needed. I can't say that enough. If you're struggling with mental health challenges, guys, family, don't hesitate to reach out to a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist, the clergy, your pastor. They can provide guidance and support. Okay. All right. You'll do that for me. All right. Good. I'm glad. I want to share some statistics that are quite alarming. And I got these from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And I'm sharing these to just make you aware of what a serious issue we're dealing with in terms of mental health. Okay. 1 in 5 American adults have experienced a mental health challenge. 1 in 5. 1 in 20 Americans live with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or severe depression. 1 in 20. Did you know that? Check this out. More than half of adults with mental illness in the United States of America, that's a total of 27 million people, I repeat, do not receive the treatment that they need. Wow. More than half of adults with mental illness in the U.S., that's a total of 27 million people, I repeat, do not receive the treatment that they need. And that's why we need months like the month of May for mental health awareness. I'm sure in your community by now, you have seen or heard about different events as it relates to mental health awareness events. And hopefully you've been to some, okay? Top 5 barriers to mental health care. Here's some more statistics. Top 5 barriers to mental health care. Financial barriers to mental health treatment. Lack of mental health care professionals and services. Limited availability of mental health education and awareness. So obviously, 1 month in the month of May isn't enough, but at least it's to draw your attention to it. Okay. Social stigma of mental health treatment and conditions. That's a biggie right there. Social stigma of mental health treatment and conditions. And then the last one is racial barriers to mental health care access and treatment. These are some statistics that I wanted to share with you, to just to give you something to think, make you pause and say, what can I do to help? What can I do to be a part of making a difference? What can I do? How can I recognize someone that's having some of these challenges? Next week when we talk about some of the triggers, some of the stressors, maybe we might be part of the problem with some of the people having challenges. You never know if you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. I want to share with you when I became interested and ultimately became a mental health advocate, and it was the year of 2007 here in Augusta, Georgia. I was hosting a daily talk radio show at the time. My show aired Monday through Fridays from 12 to 2. My topics focused on community, state, and national events and activities that impacted the Augusta and the CSRA community. And it was the morning of Thursday, November 29th, 2007. Thursday, November 29th, 2007. It was all over the headlines, all over the news. It was all over the radios. It wasn't in the newspaper yet because it had just happened, but it was all over the TV news. Augusta mom, 22 years old, fatally stabs two children, her two children, 1 year old and 3 years old, here in Augusta, Georgia. It took place in the bathroom of a local convenience store in broad daylight. That day was just, oh my goodness, that was a day that I would never, ever, ever forget, because I immersed myself in not only helping the family to raise funds for the burial of those two precious children, but I became obsessed with learning about mental health and what mental health is and what would compel a mother to do such a horrendous acts. And it just brings chills. And I touched on that last week. It just brings chills up my spine when I think about, wow, how did this person get there? And so on that particular day, I remember calling my my manager at the radio station, and I said, Will, did you hear about this incident? And he says, yes. And I said, I want to take remotely the show over to, the area where it happened, and just kind of just be a part of sharing the news and getting the news out there. My show did focus on news that happened that morning. My show was airing from 12 to 2, and he says, okay, that's fine. So we got everything set up, and I was there at the location of where this happened. And I mean, the whole area, the police and the medics and fire trucks, and then people all around, and the news stations, the TV station. It was just the whole idea of it. And so I started researching. I got on the internet and I just started talking about mental health and what would drive a young person to do such a thing. And I just started talking about that on the radio. And of course, bits and pieces of what I was learning and hearing about, the incident, the name of the person and the babies and all of that. So fast forward, I got involved by, I had connections with, I made contact with the family. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but just to give you an idea of how I immersed myself into the whole mental health space, and how this was the trigger for me to, because I'd never really thought about mental health one way or the other. Now, naturally, in the news, we hear about incidents where, people have killed their children, or domestic violence and all of that. But it just maybe because it happened so close to home. It was, the incident happened in South Augusta, where I lived, where my roots are. And and I'm just I love children. I love young people, and I'm passionate about children. And I don't know, it may have been a combination of all of those things that just drew me to that. So for the next few weeks, I had people from the mental health locations, mental health organizations in Augusta, guest on my radio show to talk about mental health. Whereas the other news stations and radio stations and stories, it focused more on the young lady. It focused on, why would she do such a thing and that sort of thing. And I tended to have my conversation. My narrative was not putting so much blame on her and making her the villain. Now, what she did was just unconscionable. Okay. So, it still gives me chills. But my emphasis was, how did she get there? How did she get to that point? And so I did research, and there was one organization, a local organization, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, that I became very connected to and got a chance to meet a lot of professionals in that arena and had guests on my show day after day for weeks. Okay, we talked about, so our narrative over the coming weeks, and it paralleled because obviously the incident itself was in the news for weeks and weeks and weeks, and of course later on the trial and so forth. But what I also did, I got a chance to meet the family, and I didn't know this family. I didn't know them. They knew of me from being in the community, having run for public office. So I wasn't just some random person that came knocking on their door asking, how can I help? I had the power of the mic. I had the power of the mic to be able to do things. So from raising money for the babies so that they can have a respectable funeral. And that's what we did. And I spearheaded, I contacted a local bank that I bank with, and they set up an account that I didn't have access to, but the family had access to, and so that they can be able to bury these two babies. And there was a local church that said, hey, look, you guys can, have the funeral, because obviously there was going to be a lot of people. And so the funeral was held. There was money that was raised, but the awareness of mental health, the awareness of an education was my primary narrative on my show. And from that point on, I got involved with NAMI. I got involved with going to area meetings. I was not a professional in that arena. I had never experienced mental health concerns at that level. But every time I went to a meeting or got involved with some type of an event, people, I would let them know this incident is what sparked my interest in becoming a mental health advocate. And the bottom line is I kept asking, I kept talking with the professionals that I had on my radio show. How did she get here? How did she get to a point where she would, in broad daylight, take those two babies inside the bathroom of a convenience store in the heart of South Augusta, lock the door, and then stab her babies to death? How did she get there? And so that was the narrative. And oh boy, it just sparked an interest. And like I said, this happened 18 years ago. And I can think about, that incident just like it was yesterday. And so that's how and why I got involved with the whole notion of mental health awareness. And so when we think about this subject of mental health, the month of May, I just felt like it was important because, this show, Reset to Reinvent, is designed to empower women in particular to rebuild and thrive after life's toughest challenges by providing inspiration, guidance, and actionable strategies for resilience. And, when you have stats, when you're made aware of something, when you're made aware of something that you're interested in, or that you don't have a lot of information on, having this type of information can spark your interest. And I'm hoping that today's episode will help in that regard. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast. I want you to subscribe. I do want you to subscribe and download. I do want you to go back and listen to the previous episodes, especially the one on mental health, which was last week. Okay. Please share with your friends. Also visit our website at resettoreinvent.com and go to our Reinvent store, and you can order some of our eBooks. One of our eBooks is on leadership, career opportunity in the life insurance industry. I even have a daily planner, a customized daily planner for you. Check it out. Okay. Buy it. And also scroll down to the footer of this podcast, okay, whatever platform that you're using, and show your support. Okay, you can support this podcast. Okay, you can support us. I'd love you to. Okay, and by the way, that journal that I just mentioned, it has some of my nuggets throughout. Matter of fact, 12 nuggets, all 12 months. So speaking of nuggets, I can't finish up today's show without sharing a special one for you today. So here is a nugget. And it actually kind of ties in with mental health, and our own inside, what we're thinking about, how we feel. It's a wonderful feeling knowing that when, and by the way, I wrote this nugget, okay, in July 18th, 2017. Wow. You're like, man, you kept that stuff all this time. Yeah, I sure did. So check this out. This is one of Helen's life nuggets. It is a wonderful feeling knowing that when or if you have chosen to give up, God will not judge you. Just like we don't want you to judge people who are challenged with mental health. We don't want you to judge. Don't be judgmental. God will not judge you, nor is he going to leave you. He is there for you no matter what. And didn't we just talk about there's a lot of times people with mental health, mental wellness challenges, mental health challenges, they feel alone. They have a sense of loneliness, and we want people to know that, no, you're not alone. You're not alone. He is there. God is with you no matter what. He will not reject you for making the wrong decision because he knows human weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. Trust him. Lean on him. You think you can control all of the situations, but you cannot control all situations. Trust God. Lean on God. This was my Helen's life nugget. Letting go is an empowering and inspiring place to be. Letting go is an empowering place to be. Now that's hard for some of us. It's like, we just hold on. I want to control. I can do this. I can do this. I was there once. Oh my goodness. Prior to 2014, I was like, I got this. I can handle this. I can get myself out of this financial bind. I can do that. I can do this. Oh my goodness. No, I couldn't. And I was digging myself deeper and deeper into a hole that blew up in my face in May of 2014. That was the year and the month that I was running for mayor of Augusta. That's going to be a whole nother topic one day. Okay. But suffice to say, it was because I didn't want to let go. And pride is evil, guys. Pride is evil. Okay. So it goes on to say, try letting go. This is empowering. So that particular Helen's Life nugget was inspired by Jeremiah, by a devotional that I read that morning. Jeremiah 31:25. Jeremiah 31:25. Okay, guys, oh my goodness. Join me next week as we share more information about mental health. And we're going to shed light on this the entire month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month. Remember, this podcast is all about you. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And you know what? The podcast is all about you because you were born to be inspired. Peace.
Reset to Reinvent podcast. We are living in uncertain times. Job security is becoming more elusive. People are losing their jobs. Companies are closing. But wait, have you ever considered a career as an insurance agent? Just a thought. Our much talked about ebook, 8 Reasons to Become a Life Insurance Agent, can help you decide if it's for you or not. Order your copy today. Visit our website, Reset to Reinvent, and click on the Reinvent store. Who knows? It may be the best decision you've made in a long time.